Okay, it is 5 minutes past 6. So, hello everybody, and welcome to our event this evening, Changing Your Path to Tech. We're really excited. Amazing speakers here this evening to tell us about career change, their experiences, and how you can do it yourself if that's something that you really want to do. For people that don't know about Coding Black Females and haven't been part of Coding Black Females before, we're an amazing community of Black women who are in tech or who aspire to be in tech. We've been running since 2017, and we're at the moment having events maybe every 2 weeks, which is absolutely amazing to be able to keep up such momentum and such excitement. We're doing a shed load of stuff. So we've got a Black Coder Bootcamp, which is going to be starting in Birmingham on the 3rd of August. So we've got currently loads of applications have come in, which is super exciting. But the applications close on Friday. So if you want to apply, go to blackcoder.com, which is on one of the slides, and I'll post it in the chat in a bit. In addition to that, we are going to be starting a mentoring program soon. So we really want to hear from people who would like to be mentors. So look out in your emails, in the channels that we've got to communicate with you, and sign up as a mentor. We're really, really excited about that. In addition, what we have coming up is we've got a couple of events coming up. On the 24th of June, we're going to have an AWS workshop, which you can get involved in for around 30 people. And then on the 8th of July, we're going to be running some lightning talks. And if you want to sign up to be a speaker for the lightning talks, then please head to events.codingblackfemales.com, where you can find out more about how to sign up. So tonight we have, like I said, 4 fantastic women. I'm not going to do too much introduction. I'm going to leave that for the ladies, but we've got Echo Akant, who's going to tell us a bit about career change, and then people who have done career changes into tech. We've got Elle, Catherine, and Nyasha. I think I did that right. I hope I did. So now I'm going to hand over to Ekwa. Bear with me while I stop my screen share. God, this is where. Fantastic.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, Charlene, for that wonderful introduction. So as Charlene said, my name is Akua. I'd like to introduce myself by saying, if you ever watched The Lion King, Hakuna Matata, so Akua. Cool. So I just wanted to say that I'm a coach, and I coach ambitious career women like you, I'm sure. And also I coach American expats living in London. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity to open this webinar about changing your path to tech. So first up, I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the organizations and projects that I'm involved in, because I'm involved in a lot of projects and things, and I really love that. I'm really passionate about actually STEM careers and tech, and so I am a Tech London advocate. Ooh, first up, and then yeah, I am a committee member of Tech London Advocates Black Women in Tech. Yeah, ooh, okay. And what's really cool about that is that they, like Black coding females, obviously work to diversify the STEM agenda, support women in tech, and I'm there to promote the network, to cross-fertilize with other networks, to find speakers, and to collaborate with other corporate organizations. I'm also the head of Wiki Village, and that is a property startup. And their core focus is really around building affordable housing for key workers, which is super exciting. As I have done many startups, because we're talking about career change, I shall tell you a few of those in a minute. I'm an early stage startup mentor, as that is a passion. That's something I've done many a time. I'm also a forthcoming author for a motivational self-help book, and it's called Be Your Number One Cheerleader. And this book is about using the path of entrepreneurship as a lens to talk about coaching, building confidence, and coaching yourself. So I haven't actually finished it yet, but this is a mock-up that I've made on Canva just so that you know that you should, if you want to write a book, make a mock-up, inspire yourself. And basically I've covered a book about how to write a book. Right, let's move on. So obviously I can't do this talk without acknowledging that Black Lives Matter, and it's been a very difficult week for all of us. It's been very painful and it's been mentally draining, and I'm there with you too, you know. And as a coach and as a human being, I just personally hope that from the ashes we will, you know, drive institutional and societal change. And the reason I mentioned the mental health aspect really is because I want to shout out two amazing Black women. One is called Amanda Townsend, and you can find her on LinkedIn. And she is not a therapist. She actually works in the mental health space. And what she does is she teaches a mental health first aid course, which is a fantastic course. I recommend that everyone gets on it if they can. And secondly, I want to shout out a Black therapist who's absolutely amazing. And you can find her at Frontline Therapist on Instagram. Okay, cool. Obviously, we are here to talk about career change. So I'm just going to tell you a bit about my career changes and how that's gone for me. So I started my career as a civil servant, and I was a PA at first. And being a civil servant, you get to work on different things like policy, projects, and IT and digital transformation in my personal career. And I worked for a number of departments, the Cabinet Office, the Home Office, and the Department for Digital Culture and Sports. And by the time I left the civil service, I had trained and developed myself to become an IT project manager. Again, obviously that's all about tech. So not being content was just, you know, being in a job. I was a side hustler. I like to work on side projects. And the one that's really synergetic with this talk is one called Hackathon Queen. And I recognize I can't be a coder. I tried, you know, I'm proud of my 2007 like square with a dog. That was my website effort. So where I'm at is organization is my particular strength, and bring people together, whether it's developers, designers, creatives, to build amazing digital products. That's really what I'm about and why I kind of did that startup. So although the civil service did give me a lot of opportunities, it wasn't enough for me. I wanted more, and I had other personal and career aspirations. So I studied political science at Brunel University, and I've got a real passion for civic participation, you know, getting people registered to vote and voting in general. And I wanted to experience American politics in 2008. And at that time, they were saying it was going to be potentially a game-changing year in American politics. So I was nervous and I was excited, but I really wanted to be a part of American politics at a great time of change. And I wanted students to know that they could be powerful and use a ballot box to make history. So what did I do about that? Okay, I quit my job in the civil service, and I saved up, obviously, and I applied for an unpaid internship. And I had an internship at a non-partisan voting rights organization called Fair Vote. I spent 6 months in America in 2008, helping to educate college students about voting rights and voting. But do you know what is quite striking for the moment of now is that when I was in America, I learned about a cause which is very passionate, which is very dear to my heart, and that is the District of Columbia. They don't have a seat in Congress. So they're disenfranchised people. The people who are living in the catchment area and in the White House, you see people protesting, where you see that massive sign that says Black Lives Matters on the road. They have no voice. It's a travesty. And basically, I was part of a group whilst I was there called DC Vote, who campaigned for their rights. So obviously I was very passionate about that issue. And that passion and drive and courage, quite frankly, led me to be on the floor during President Obama's convention nomination. So I was really proud to have been an active part in shaping history. And I have memorabilia, so you might be able to see, but basically this is the stuff I got, and the convention brochure from the DNC, and there's also the ticket there, but it's kind of like fallen by the wayside. But yeah, super proud of that. Okay, Yay! So obviously we are here to talk about career change, and for me, it's not about failing or about being a negative thing. It's really about something that's positive, in my view. And I personally believe that tech offers a wide spectrum of careers, and that's why it's really fantastic. I've changed my career over, many times because I wanted to progress, or I just didn't enjoy what I was doing, because your mental health and well-being is very important. So that's, what I want to say to people like that. So 3 reasons why career change is fantastic, because I often want to say that. First up, you bring innovation and a different perspective. Now, points 2 and 3, I really need people to listen closely to these. You already have the skills, okay? You are invaluable to your next employer. It's not about trashing everything that you have. It's about accepting and harnessing what you have and building upon what you're going to do next. And finally, own your career history. Be proud of what you've achieved. Let's say it again. Own your career history. Be proud of what you've achieved, because it is getting you to where you are today. So just to close the talk, because I'm talking for a little bit, I would just like to say that I started in one place as a civil servant. I'm now a coach and an entrepreneur, and I really enjoy that. I find joy and fulfillment in coaching and everything that I'm involved in. And crucially, I am successful by my own yardstick and nobody else's. And I'm working towards further scaling my coaching business as I would like to. And I'd just like to say thank you so much, Charlene, for this opportunity, and hand over to the next speakers.
Lovely. Thank you very, very much. That was really, really useful and really insightful. And I think that especially knowing what you've been through and how people could do it too, I think that sounds really useful. So thank you. Woo. Cool. So now we're going to move on to Elle, who is going to talk about her career change. I will say that if, whilst we're going through this, anybody has any questions, please post them in the Q&A section if you're on Zoom, or in the just in the chat if you're on YouTube. So awesome. Over to Elle. Introduce yourself and let us hear a bit about your journey as well.
Hi everyone. I'm just going to get set up because I've got some slides. All right. So can you see the slide, Charlene?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. So I am going to talk about my journey into tech. And before I get into it, I'm Elle Halal, and I'm a software crafter, which is a full stack developer for a company called 8th Light. And 8th Light is a software consultancy based in London and various cities in the US. I'm also part of the leadership team for Coding Black Females and a mentor. So before I changed and became a software crafter, I've always had an interest in tech, and in my younger days, I would use HTML and CSS to make little funny web pages, and it brought me a lot of joy. But life happens, and I went on to get a non-STEM degree in business management and marketing. That led me into doing various client and crisis management roles for different companies, and also creating digital content for hair brands. At the end of 2017, I felt like it didn't feel like a career for me. I wasn't fulfilled, and that led me to deciding that now was the time for me to try something I've always wanted to do, and that was learning to code. So when I made that decision, I was really, really excited for the first time in ages. But at the same time, I didn't know where to start. I knew I didn't want to go back to university. I was still paying off my student loans. And I also didn't want to fork out too much money either. So I used resources online to code, and I used a variety of free and paid resources. The majority of them are free. So I'm just going to talk about some of the ones that I've got here on the slide. The first one is Free Code Camp. And I would say it's like a curriculum. So it starts from the fundamentals of HTML and CSS, and then it goes all the way to data visualization. I got up to the JavaScript section. So during my journey learning to code, I would follow this so-called curriculum, and some parts I found that I wanted a bit more information or I didn't quite get it. And that's when I would head over to the other resources such as Udacity and Codecademy to get a bit more in-depth information. One thing I like about Free Code Camp is that there are projects at each stage. So if you're looking to build up your portfolio and to put what you've learned into practice, that's a great resource. Udemy, which is they have paid courses, is also a great resource. I would say with that, I never pay more than 12 or 20 pounds because most of the courses go on sale. So I did that for about 6 months, and it started to feel quite isolating. At the time, I didn't know anyone else who was learning to code, and therefore I felt like I lacked direction. I didn't know if I was learning the right thing. And that led me to seeking out bootcamps and courses. And here are a few of the ones that I came across. And if you're learning to code and seeking some kind of structure, these may be of interest to you. I'm just going to tell you a bit about each of them. So Makers Academy, it's a 12-week course, and I think it's £8,000. They also have a 12-month apprenticeship where for the first 12 weeks you go through their course, and then the remainder of the 12 months you are employed at a company, and that means you don't have to pay the £8,000. I think they also have a fellowship where it's a 12-week course, but the price is waived, so you don't have to pay £8,000. The next one I came across was Founders and Coders, and it's an 18-week course. It's free and it's based in London and it's full-time. And the next one was Code First Girls, 8-week courses, and 2 of my colleagues have taken their courses. To be eligible to take their courses, you have to be between the ages of 18 to 23, have studied in the last 2 years, or be a student at university. So for me, I didn't use any of these resources, and the reason being that for Makers, I applied to their fellowship and their apprenticeship and I didn't get in. For Code First Girls, I didn't meet the criteria. And for Founders and Coders, although it's free and it sounds great, for me, I couldn't afford to not be paid, not have a wage for that long period of time. So luckily, my opportunity came in the form of a tweet. And this is a tweet by Black Girl Tech, which is an organization that aims to promote diversity within the tech industry, pretty much like Coding Black Females. And they paired up with the company that I'm currently at, which is 8th Light, to offer an opportunity to learn to code for 16 weeks. So I applied, I had an interview, and I put it at the back of my mind because of my previous rejections of applying for stuff and not getting through. But little did I know that this was going to be the path that I would take to get into tech. So what I would say, if you're interested in an opportunity like this, there are a couple of things available at the moment. And the first is from a company called Made Tech, and they are offering a 12-week program, and you can build the foundations of a software development career and be paid a full salary from day one. And the second is one that Charlene mentioned before we started the talks, which is Black Coder. And this is a 6-month part-time coding bootcamp open to women and non-binary folks in the West Midlands. And for this one, I think there'll be 2 classes in the evenings. And yeah, it's organised by Coding Black Females as well as other organisations. If you're interested, the deadline for both is soon. So I'd recommend checking that out as soon as possible. Even if you don't feel as if you're ready, please apply. I thought I wasn't ready for the opportunity you see here in the tweet, but yeah, amazing things have come from it. So at this point, I've applied for it. I am now an intern at 8th Light. And at this point, I have been learning to code by myself for 12 months. in my free time. So the process from becoming an intern to a software crafter was 12 months. The first 16 weeks was the internship, and I had a number of mentors during this time, and what this consisted of was various different projects that would be done with the other interns. There were 4 of us in total, and in those 4 months, I learned more than I did in the year that I was studying by myself. It offered the structure and the support that I needed, and it just opened my eyes to what was possible. I then went on to apply for 8light's apprenticeship, and I did that for 8 months. I also had mentors at this stage, and I was going through this process with other apprentices, but this was more of a solo thing. It was really, really intense. And eventually in October 2019, 2 years after deciding that I wanted to learn to code, I became a software crafter. Now, I'd like to say it was as straightforward as it looked: internship, apprenticeship, software crafter, but that's not the case. Some days nothing seemed to make sense. Some days I was really, really frustrated, and imposter syndrome, I really struggled with that, and I still do to this day as a software crafter. But luckily I had the support of mentors and colleagues and people around me, friends and family, who have encouraged me to keep going. And my journey is still ongoing. I'm learning something new every single day, and I'm being challenged every day, and I love it. So I'm going to end on some tips, and some of these things I wish I implemented myself to help me along my journey. So the first thing is find your tribe. What does that mean? That I'm referring to people who are on a similar journey to you, or people who have or are where you want to be. Also attending meetups and follow and interact with people on social media. You never know where your next opportunity will come from. And also join great communities like this one. The second thing I would recommend is building stuff. So try and implement what you're learning. It's one thing to learn and go through exercises and tutorials, but then applying your knowledge is a totally different thing. So for ideas of what to build, there, as I mentioned before, free code camp, and then on YouTube there are project ideas as well. And you can use these to build a catalogue or portfolio of projects which will help you in the future. And the great thing is, as your knowledge increases, you can go back to these projects that you've built and you can improve on them. The next thing I'd say is document your progress, whether that's in the form of notes or a blog, just as a reminder to yourself of where you started or where you were at a particular time, and then to where you are now. Especially for me, that was really important in terms of imposter syndrome, thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I can't do this. And then I would go back to a blog that I had to write during my apprenticeship and internship and see how far I came. And that really brought things home to how far I come along. And the last thing I'd say is be kind to yourself. There are a variety of different languages, frameworks, so many new things that's coming out all of the time, and it's not possible to learn all of it, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed, but you will, as long as you will be able to get a grasp of something. It's not impossible. There are resources out there, there's documentation, being able to ask people around you questions, your mentors, your colleagues, even people in the Coding Black Females group, and you'll be fine. And remember to take regular breaks. So I'll end on that. I'll be creating a full list of resources I used when learning to code, such as the exact courses, and I will post the link on Twitter, so feel free to follow me if you're interested in that. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me as well. Cool, thank you.
Amazing, thank you, Elle. That was really useful. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that you've said that resonates with me as someone who's been a developer with no career change. And it's like the imposter syndrome is still there. So many bits of it are still there, but it's so important to find a community that can support you along the way. And
Definitely.
what I've seen happen with Coding Black Females is a lot of people are supporting each other. So yeah, that was definitely very important. Thank you.
Cool.
We've had a few questions come in, but I think what we'll do is we will do all the questions at once, if that's okay with people. So I'll let Elle disappear back into the top row, and then we'll move on to Catherine.
Hi, hello, hi. So my name's Catherine Tingle, and I'll just walk you through kind of my journey to tech, as that's why we're all here. But I guess before I do that, I just wanted to kind of make sure that I send love to everyone. I know that we've all had a really kind of draining last week, and it's trickling into this week as well. But glad to see kind of the community coming together. So let's start from the beginning. So I studied law. So again, I didn't have a STEM or technical degree, such as kind of engineering, that's a big one, or data science, or AI recently, in terms of uni options. And straight after law school, I decided that rather than getting into law after a few vacation schemes, that I would actually go into consulting. So I started my journey within kind of strategy consulting, working with FTSE 100 and Fortune 500 companies on their strategic roadmaps. And I realized that the company that I started out in, which is CEB, now Gartner, they actually use technology to kind of leverage the gap between the best practices and this huge repository of best practices and information and guides for their clients. And they leverage tech by kind of providing that service from a distance. So that was a fantastic opportunity for me to really like diagnose client issues and understand how within business and within consulting, technology can actually really help. I then moved into the Big Four. So I joined Deloitte, and because I decided that I wanted to be more creative in kind of the solutions that I was bringing to my clients. And I think by being within consulting and outside of kind of the rigidness of a best practice framework, it kind of really afforded me that opportunity. And I guess with Deloitte, it was an invaluable opportunity. I traveled a lot, and in my personal life, I love traveling. I'm very much a traveler, but for work, I guess the glamour of it wore off very quickly, and kind of constantly eating hotel food and living out of my suitcase, never being at home, wore off quite quickly. And that's when I decided that I wanted to take this consulting toolkit that I had built over like 3-4 years into a business where I would literally lead programs from inception all the way through to delivery and post-implementation. I wrote about this in one of my blogs, that kind of management consultants get a bad rep of kind of delivering really shiny decks and being on client side and coming up with like really great kind of deliverables. But eventually being an external consultant, it means that you have to leave. And in doing so, you don't really see the aftermath of kind of the solutions that you try to embed in those organizations. So the change only kind of goes so far. But from a career perspective, it gives you so much variety that you can really leverage, which is fantastic. But then I decided that let me get some in-house experience within strategy consulting. Also, let me stop living out of a corporate suitcase rather than my personal suitcase. And that's when I joined Sainsbury's back then, which was about 3.5 years ago now. I joined more the Sainsbury's Argos side. So many people aren't aware of kind of what makes up the Sainsbury's group. And it's not only Sainsbury's, but it's also Argos, it's also Habitat, it's Sainsbury's Bank, it's Nectar, Nectar's actually the biggest loyalty scheme in the UK. And they have partnerships with like eBay. And so it's a huge company, as we all know. And I was brought in into a digital strategy team to lead the integration of To Clothing into the Argos website. Now, Argos, I'm not sure where everybody's from. We might have some international people dialing in, but in the UK, kind of we have them on the high streets. It's a popular shop. It's the third kind of most visited general merchandise website in the UK. And I had the task of kind of leading that program. It was a cross-functional program. And this was like my first opportunity of kind of getting into the digital and tech world from having a kind of core strategy consulting background. And that's when it opens the world of kind of, you know, working with the tech teams and the engineers and the software designers and the UX designers and the product managers and product designers. And you realize that there's so much that we kind of, as customers and as people, we interact with tech and digital so much now in our everyday lives that I felt that, wow, the work that I'm doing is, one, really impactful. Two, it's really far reaching in terms of servicing kind of hundreds of thousands customers across the UK. So that was a bit of a baptism of fire, but it was exactly what I needed in terms of really honing in on, one, my consulting and on all the program and project management skills that I had kind of been building 4 years prior to joining Sainsbury's. But also it was invaluable, like I said, in terms of really understanding what type of roles are there in the digital and tech world that a non-techie, as I call myself, and I've written a few kind of non-techie journey to tech articles, can like go into. And after I delivered that program, I was then promoted to a strategy lead. And I again delivered a beauty transformation program that was on the Sainsbury's Grocery Online website, but then also again putting a new category onto Argos, like I did with the clothing category a few years prior, so that customers can now shop makeup via Argos, which again is an unusual kind of customer journey, because when you think of Argos, you think, oh, I need a kettle sometimes, oh, I need like some kind of a TV, some kind of general merchandise kind of purchase. That's why typically previously you would go to Argos, but over the years of having implemented To Clothing, we've seen people shopping clothing via Argos, not only Sainsbury's. And lately we've also been seeing customers shop makeup as well. So I did that as like a strategy lead, along with some other programs, and that was truly cross-functional work, truly end-to-end, like the previous program in my digital strategy role. It touched on every part of the business, despite sitting within digital and tech. And then recently, I've decided to kind of hone in even more on the digital and tech side of things. And now I'm a technical program manager. And some questions that I've got recently about, okay, so how does a technical program manager, especially not having a technical background, how does that differ to a general program manager, or just a general, like generalist project manager? Or you could even go into the kind of territory of product management. How does this all differ? And the way that I think about it, or the way that kind of my day-to-day looks like, although I do things outside of work, which I'll touch upon in a bit, is as a technical program manager, I'm now responsible for leading kind of the biggest tech and complex tech programs within the business, which has cross-functional elements to it. It touches upon every single part of the business. So that means that you have to corral lots of different people, from technical people to also non-technical people, so the business side, business side of kind of the program, and deliver a huge program. And it's where the technical side of things comes into play, is really understanding the nuances of what's being built and being able to tease out kind of that complexity and tease out where we may kind of stumble upon issues, and kind of have that foresight of bringing them to the front straight away. Because I think in every big organization, although there has been kind of progress being made to kind of strip away silos, naturally in big organizations where you've got lots of teams doing lots of amazing things and building amazing things, that sometimes that can create blind spots in other areas. So I'm able to kind of have that bird's eye view to make sure that if an engineering team had decided to build whatever they're deciding to build, it's not kind of counterproductive to the building of other tech happening elsewhere. So I think it's that technical expertise which really, I guess, differentiates a technical program manager as opposed to a project manager. But then saying that, all the kind of core skills that makes up a really great and strong program manager apply. So your influencing skills, being able to lead teams without generally having to either be their line manager, but then they have almost like a dotted line into you as you head up the programs, to make sure that they're kind of keeping up to date with, keeping you up to speed with what they're doing, and also basically being accountable to me, to other heads of kind of programs. So it's a highly influential role. It's because of the size and the complexity of the programs that you're responsible for. Naturally, it's high pressured, but I work quite well in that environment. And I think that having that consulting background has really helped me. And I also kind of interviewed a Black woman, who's also works within the kind of technical program management space for one of the largest e-commerce fashion businesses a few weeks ago. And ironically, she also had a consulting background. So it kind of, I think someone already said it today, it's, being really creative in terms of what are the skills that you already have within your gift, what are the things that you enjoy and you're good at, also notwithstanding the things that you do need to work on and you do need to develop. That's a part of life and part of kind of every career journey. And thinking about, especially within the tech space, differentiating, do you feel that you are going to be, or you're suitable and you're interested enough to be highly technical or to be a software coder, as opposed to still working within the tech space, but maybe leveraging more of the softer skills that is definitely needed to make things happen. I read a book called The DevOps Handbook, and it really teases out the importance of kind of having that balance between highly technical skills and also the kind of the softer skills as well. So I think that's like really important, and that's something that I kind of speak about a lot on kind of other panels and through my writing and thought leadership as well. And then outside of work, I do some really exciting things with kind of diverse founders, and I contribute quite significantly to early stage startup accelerator programs. And some people may be thinking, what the hell is that? I've written a blog on it. So I'll put the link in if anyone's interested. But yeah, so I contribute quite significantly to accelerators, and basically, in a nutshell, it's programs which help startups scale. So it's always led by a business expert. So things that workshops that I've delivered is around kind of business strategy and strategic road mapping, and how kind of what does it look like to scale your business, and how to implement the right tools and leverage the right things within your business to do that. So that's looking at your customer experience, that's looking at your digital experience. Are you tech enabled, especially in a climate even pre-corona, which was really, really important. So yeah, I love working with startups and founders, especially diverse ones. And then I do some speaking as well. So yeah, that's me, and I'm happy to answer any questions and connect with you all. If you have any further questions that you kind of want to take offline, always happy to share.
Thank you very much for that. It was so good to hear more about what you do, and more about sort of Sainsbury's and Argos, I guess, which I didn't really know either. So thank you so much for that. Nyasha, so people, you can post your questions. So I've seen some questions coming in. We're saving them for the end. But yeah, drop your questions in and we'll go through them once we get to the question part of the evening. Nyasha, do you want to say your bit? Introduce yourself?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, just thank you so much to you, Charlene. Coding Black Females just means so much to me in terms of having that safe space and all the amazing resources and things that I've learned and people that I've been meeting through that group. And just to all of you other wonderful, lovely ladies who've spoken, thank you. I've just been loving this. I'm actually going to go back and rewatch the YouTube just so I can make sure I've gleaned everything when I'm able to take notes and stuff. And to all of our wonderful people that are attending as well, thank you so much for joining us. And it's really such a pleasure to be able to engage with all of you. And I know some people had already reached out on LinkedIn beforehand. So I thought the best way to go about this, so I love presentations, but I didn't have time this time, sadly. I might try and actually just do some screen sharing if it works. And I just thought I could actually have a go at showing my LinkedIn, and then that could be a way of just, I think, so it's talking about my journey first of all, and then the things which have been helpful to me as part of that. So that's great. Can everybody see? Great, wonderful. Yes, so I studied, as you can see, again, nothing particularly technical, but I think it's, as the others have said, is to just whatever you have and whoever you are, just what you've enjoyed. And I think all of that stuff can actually help with changing your career path to tech, because you're bringing a unique perspective other than somebody who's maybe got like a pure computer science or some engineering background. So I would really say, you know, don't be discouraged by that and don't feel bad. See it as something that, you know, you add value and it's an additional asset. And I think in terms of learning things, it's just, I think it's all about finding whichever resource is best for you. One thing that I think happens is sometimes you complete a certain course or you try something and you get stuck. But something I think is so important is, as long as you can find the thing which speaks most to you and makes most sense to you, just keep looking and don't give up. So my first thing that I did, I had a couple of gigs, other stuff outside of school. And then I actually worked in recruitment initially. And I think this kind of gave me a bit of a taster as to what it could mean to really be working in tech. So I was just temping at a recruitment organization. And I think that just really encouraged me. And I knew in my head that it was something that I was always gonna come back to, and I was always going to want to build myself up in a certain way. And I think there's a lot of stuff that can be tech adjacent, and digital marketing is one of them, because I think you might see it as more of a marketing thing, but actually there's so much involved in tech. And I think one thing to note is they often say with the International Labour Organization and UN and all these bodies that are thinking about the future of work is every job is a tech job, more or less, because, you know, you can't really have a role where you're not taking into account some element of, you know, and there's obviously what Catherine was saying about AI and all those other things, and, you know, organizations talking about becoming data driven. So I think it's really important to be. And then so with digital marketing consultancy, I was just playing around and having a go at entrepreneurship, and I really got a lot out of that. And then I knew that was another thing that I might skill set. And then, like Ekua, I also had my time in the civil service, and I definitely enjoyed it. And I think even then I could sense I was always looking for kind of the tech stuff that was happening, because they were they had a continuous improvement. I'm not sure if they still talk about it. This is 2017, but they were talking a lot about, you know, how they're going to be bringing technology in. And I remember I'd always be the one like rushing off to those talks and loving it. And it was very interesting because there was a bit of a birth with the other employees were like, what's this going to be? You know, the whole we're going to be replaced by computers. But I think for me, I loved it because I thought hopefully that can be value that can be translated for taxpayers. And so I think even then I was always just grasping and just searching and looking for what's the most innovative thing that I can be doing in whatever role that I have. And then following on from that, I spent some time in China, and this was a oh, thank you so much. I will respond to you, Sasha. So in terms of, yes, California, the California Clean Energy Fund, so it's now called New Energy Nexus, and that was another great experience again. Like I think it was Catherine again who was talking about working with startups and accelerators, and I found all of that really inspiring. And I think it was just all this stuff like learning about how it could be and all of those possibilities, and like slowly finding my way to get there. And I think I just really came away with that sense of wanting to be part of contributing to something meaningful and wanting to do something that I feel is really going to make an impact on the world. Because I was noting down what sorts of things have been like a recurring theme throughout all of the stuff I've done. And I think for me, it's been lifelong learning. I love learning. I know, like, it's just the one thing, like when I was feeling depressed at the start of lockdown, I'm like, oh no, that's the one thing which really brought me up out of that and managed to like see a clearer path and getting rid of all the anxiety and just focus on what can I do now that I couldn't do before with this time. But at the same time, it's not all about productivity. If all you're just trying to do is like survive, I'm with you, and that is okay. Be proud, you're doing great. And then following on from that, I then went into peace building, because this is another area where I felt that in line with this whole thing about said about finding meaning and always focusing on where there are like a lot of problems to solve, I really was fascinated by thinking about what technology could mean in this context. So a lot of what I did here was helping them with information management and just thinking about, for example, how they can use data and how they could apply other things. And there were brilliant collaborations with the United Nations as well, because there's thinking about blockchain and all sorts of fascinating emerging technologies which can be amazing in these fields. So again, yeah, with this as well, I was really moving towards that focus, because I know for myself, when I think about my career, I always want to do something that has a lot of meaning to me, and I always want to feel a sense of purpose. I can't say that I've ever applied for a company. Well, applied is, lots of rejections along the way. I've got like a real resume of failures that I'm very proud of. I can't say that I've ever really actively gone for something that much or been in something where I really didn't feel like, yes, this is so important. I'm so glad to be doing this, and this is a good use of my time to be here. And so I absolutely, loved this, organization, like brilliant people, just so inspired. And this was in Switzerland, can highly recommend. And then after that, I then started at My Society. So I had absolutely loved them for ages. I first started engaging with them because they share all of their technology research and data, so it's all open source. So I would encourage you guys as well, if you want to go and have a look, by all means, check out the data, check out like the software installations that they have, and you can take some of the code, you can use it for yourself, you can embed it on websites and stuff. So it was really meaningful for me to get to be at one of my dream companies. And then in this role, so again, I think in terms of coding, I do It's like regular expressions is maybe the most like programming-ish thing that I would say that I do most often. And it's very funny because it's known as the black magic of programming or coding. I don't know if others would have heard similar things. So I often think about that in terms of that would be very interesting, like black girl magic, black magic. So that's something that I was exploring something around that. But yeah, with this role, it's just really been about, again, focusing on what it means in terms of this open source world. And I think for me, that means even greater impact, because you're not only able to focus on what you're doing within your company, but you have, you know, maybe in, I think we're used in over 40 countries. There are all these international partners and all these other people that get in touch and they're like, oh, software, can you help us set it up in our own country, and really making a difference. And so my site, it's a civic technology social enterprise, and that's something that's really close to my heart because I was born in Zimbabwe, and I'm sure other Africans and other people who are, I'm not so familiar with what happens in like Caribbean countries. It looks great to me, you know, outside in, but I'm sure people can empathize with like governments and governance and all of that stuff, and why there's a lot of need for tech and disruption there. So that's kind of been my journey overall. And, you know, my LinkedIn, I have a kind of very, you know, selling myself and trying to be very American summary, which I encourage all of you to do. I've heard a lot of great stuff about always being your own PR person. I think, yes, Echo, you know, and I think especially as women and maybe Black women, I mean, I'm not generalizing to everyone, but I think there can be a sense of maybe putting yourself down a little bit or not really seeing and valuing your achievements. So I would really encourage you to, like, when you look at your CV and when you look at the stuff you've done, like, you can always apply it to other things. And I think there's just so much in the way there in terms of transferable stuff. And that's one thing I try to do a lot of now. I'm trying to help people through an initiative that I have called Your Career Site. And so my current model is I have my, should I say, wealthy white males that pay for the services, and then I help the ethnic minority young women for free. So I'm trying to do as much giving back because I feel that I've been really fortunate in terms of all that I've received. So in terms of the other stuff, so now I'm going to move through some of my favorite resources for, oh gosh, how do I drag this down? Okay, that was easy, I'm glad. So some of my favorite resources for learning, I'm sure many of you have heard of. By the way, I loved all the resources Elle shared. I swear by those two, Udemy, Udacity, Free Code Camp, brilliant Code Wars. So I just tried to think what she didn't already mention, but I'm sure she knows these two. And then there's edX, again, so these ones are more kind of like university type approaches, because it's like, as you can see, linked to all these, you know, great institutions. And I think these are a really great starting point. And again, it depends, you know, there's so many things that you can do in tech. It doesn't have to be, of course, software. It can be just tech adjacent, but there's like such a wide variety in terms of the offerings that they have. So this is just mine, but I can like say, let's say, sorry, it's in French. I tried to keep my French alive. Okay, I'll just do technology stuff for most. But yeah, as you can see, there's just so much to choose from, and I would really encourage you to like explore and just pick up courses, and most of it is free. I think sometimes you might have to pay extra if you want a certificate that you have. And sometimes they have trials, and a lot of companies are doing a lot of great stuff for coronavirus. Just to quickly go back to my profile, sorry, by the way, I'm in a Coronavirus Tech Handbook, which some of you may have heard of, but I think it's a really brilliant resource as well, because it's like crowdsource and collective intelligence. So I'd really encourage taking a look at that as well. So just coronavirustechhandbook.com, because that's really been like honestly so pivotal for me in terms of coming out of all the struggles. And then this is fellow founders of the future. So yes, I also encourage entrepreneurship, and I think at this, you know, in the fourth industrial revolution, you need to have multiple sources of income. So I really, and you know, building up wealth, especially what it means for Black people and people of color. So yeah, all these things I encourage, and I love signing up for programs because I think sometimes it gives you an extra push to do more. So yes, going back to the resources, you can see all of this amazing stuff. I really encourage you, go there, try it out. The Coursera team are wonderful people. And then there's edX. I use edX less, I don't know why, but they're just as wonderful. And the times they'll be on both Coursera and edX, so you can just find which like offering you prefer. And then there's Flatiron. So again, of course, Flatiron is more like a boot camp. So this is, by the way, I'm now talking about more if you want to focus on learning tech stuff. And then they have like lots of free stuff. So definitely try one of those out. Then there's Solo Learn. And I think with Solo Learn, what's particularly cool is they have a code playground. So often like when something is tricky to understand, actually copy the code from like the question that they're asking you, then you can try it out. And I think that can help you with understanding it more, because I really love what was being said earlier about documenting stuff, because I think that's one thing I never did. I always struggled with like perfectionism. I thought, no, I'm not happy. Oh, it's terrible code, it's this. But I really wish I had done more of that. And I think in terms of portfolio building, I'm really getting a lot of help with like mentorship as well to make progress in that. And then I also, so Zola is, yeah, mostly free. I'm not sure if it's a coronavirus thing at the moment, but have your pick. And then they have like, yeah, loads of different languages and things, all this great stuff, and a really wonderful community behind it as well. And then I used to work for Zenva. So again, they do have free courses. I'm not sure what's the current offering, but again, really, really great stuff. And I think often explained in a different way. There's Springboard. So I think, Elle, that's a great idea to have a list of resources. So I would definitely share. Right now, my Twitter is mainly just BLM stuff. I'm going very hard. I'm really getting out all the frustration, but I definitely will have space, and I will be sharing stuff on LinkedIn as well. And then, so Springboard, I think, is particularly brilliant. They have a lot of free stuff that has been really, really helpful in terms of like the data analysis, the stuff that I'm moving towards like, for data science. And then there is HackerRank. So HackerRank is more like, I know Elle, you put Code Wars, so I feel like HackerRank is slightly along those lines, because it's more of a competitive-ish element to it, but again, you don't need to do the competing stuff. I think what's important as well is not just, you've watched a video, you've learned stuff, but I think it's actually putting it into practice and like making your brain think. So, and I think one thing as well that's really key to remember is, I know I always think, oh, I'll never remember that code, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, XYZ, but it's actually a lot of it is Googling and being able to like think something, because you're trying to solve a problem. You're not trying to say, oh, I remember XYZ code perfectly. So I think that's one thing. And the first thing that I should have put here, to be honest, should have been Google, because being proactive, searching for resources, you can ignore this list. There's 1,000 other things that I don't even know about. So that's another thing I would really, really recommend, going out there looking for stuff. So yeah, HackerRank. And then again, some of these I've only discovered recently, but I definitely wish I'd known about sooner. Exorcism, I think, is really cool, because you actually get a mentor as well to help you talk through the stuff. And I think they've got a really great team and a lot of thinking that they put into making learning to code like easier and nicer. Then there's Leet Code, which I think is like more on the heavier end of the scale. Like if you're really set in your mind, you want to do software engineering stuff, and it's about like interview practice and problem sets. And again, a really great community with people sharing. Seems very male dominated, but I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. But and then there is Real Python, which is another one that I've discovered because they had some free things that they're offering, because at work we use Ruby, but I'm mostly trying to focus on Python for data stuff. But yeah, and again, even YouTube, guys, just there are so many people that this is like their main place where they put their learning resources. And of course, it doesn't have to be just software. It can be, I don't know, business analysis, blah, 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 like anything that you want to do that's tech related. So there are all these resources. Even Reddit, I don't know if you guys have considered, but like there's communities and people will be sharing all these things and all these places. And there's Stack Overflow, again, where you can find people to like give help and support. And then I will say as well, if possible, I don't know if some of you have thought about this, but I think we should definitely think about the future generations and how we can help them feel that they have a place in tech, because I think sometimes it can be quite unwelcoming, and it's also things that like happen in school and things that happen in university where you feel like, I'm not sure I can do this, or I'm not sure I can be a great one. And they've been holding amazing events online as well. So I would recommend as well thinking about those future generations. But yeah, so I hope that has been a bit of a kind of whistle stop overview of the things that have mattered to me. So just to reiterate again, for me, it's really been about lifelong learning and finding the right opportunities and being proactive about it. And also searching for meaning, because I think it's important to really have a purpose in what you want to do and what's important to you, because I think that also comes across in interviews and all those places, and it will always be something that's easy for you to show why a specific company resonates with you, and you can like sell yourself even when you feel like you're not the perfect candidate. And remember, men apply when they feel that they meet only 60% of the criteria. But yeah, you guys have heard it, I know. And women apply it when they think they meet 100%. So really give yourself that push. Like some of these other roles, like I applied, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get it, but I'm applying like a man today. And they were like, yeah, let's have an interview. And I was like, what? So really go for it, and just, isn't it? Yeah, you've had the same experience as Charlene. So yeah, just really go for it, believe in yourself, and have all your self-care in place. And yeah, just to touch back what we've been saying in terms of the whole Black Lives Matter and everything going on. And I'm sure, unfortunately, a lot of us have had experiences with racism, and it can be just so damaging. And that's definitely something I want to do in terms of finding a way for like healing from all of that trauma. Because, you know, as fortunate as I've been and as grateful as I am for my experiences, unfortunately, I have had some really rough things that have really made an impact on me. So I've definitely like sought out programs and access. There's, you know, Black Girl Therapy, there's all these places to really get that support, because as amazing as the working world is, unfortunately, in a world that's not designed for Black women, for, you know, women of color, etc., and non-binary people, there's a lot that we have to be mindful of in terms of looking after ourselves. But of course, we have this community and we're all here to help each other, and I love it. So yes, you see I'm linked in, so I will post that link again. But yeah, I really would absolutely anything that I can do to help and support people, and you're all wonderful. I believe in all of you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. I've got like, I started writing down the resources. I was trying to catch up, but you gave so many resources. That was amazing. Thank you. I will say, like, yeah, there's so many things that all of you have said that I've resonated with, and I really think that what I need to do is put a list together of all the resources that you guys can use to learn to code. And I will say as well, like, one of the reasons that Coding Black Females exists is because when I started work, I was the only Black woman in an office, and I experienced racism at work, and I had nowhere to turn. And everything that I've seen happen over the last few days has been like, it's just brought all of that back. And I don't want people to go through that on their own again. Like, racism's not going to disappear after this last couple of weeks. It's not going to go anywhere. But we need to be there for each other. We need to prop each other up. And that's what I think we're all here for. Like, we're here to make sure we're all together all the time, and we've always got each other's back. So yeah, let's keep it up. It's just been great to hear everything you guys have said. One thing I am going to quickly talk about before we go on to the Q&A, we've got loads of questions, is the Made Tech Academy that Elle spoke about. So I work at Made Tech, and we're really excited about the Academy. That's going to be, the end date for the applications for that is the 30th of June, I believe, 30th of June. They're going to kill me if I get it wrong. And I'm actually going to be running it, so please apply. I really want to see people who have applied from Coding Black Females. I really want to see that on the list because it makes me look really good. So please apply. If you've got any questions, find a way to contact me. LinkedIn, Charlene Hunter, you'll find me. So please get in contact. In addition, the Black Coder Bootcamp is in the West Midlands, and it's for people in the West Midlands. Apply if you're in the area. We are trying to work on bringing it to the rest of the UK, but this is essentially the first time we're running it, and we really want it to be successful. So it's in the West Midlands for now. It's going to be elsewhere soon. Cool. So I am going to move on to some Q&A. So I hope everyone's ready for a lot of questions. Okay, I'm going to try and start easy, and I'm going to start over in, let's start in YouTube. So one of the questions I've had here is, how do you communicate your interest or passion for tech when you don't have a tech background or any tech or coding experience? So how can you show that?
Sure, I'm happy to take it. So how you show kind of your interest and passion without having a tech background. So I guess this is one of the reasons actually I started kind of the non-techies journey to tech kind of series, because there is a lot of people who and specifically Black women who are genuinely interested in tech, but because they feel that they don't have a technical background or a STEM degree, they look at it as kind of like a blocker and a hurdle to jump over, along with the other hurdles that we face as Black women in the workplace. And one thing that I would say, or a few things that I would say, and some of the things that I have done in my career is, like I said previously, be really creative in terms of your experience that you already have. literally do a brainstorming exercise in terms of kind of the companies that you've worked at. If you're not at the point of kind of, you've got a few years of professional experience, if you've gone to university, think about the projects and things that you've really enjoyed or you've delivered. Also in your personal life, I know that there are kind of non-technical people who have started kind of creating a portfolio of whether it's kind of resources that they kind of keep up to date with to really show their passion within tech and being able to keep up to date with kind of the latest trends and what's really popular or, you know, certain topics. So I can give you an example of through coronavirus, one topic that's really been front of center is like infosec and cybersecurity. The fact that kind of we're all using kind of these digital platforms, we're constantly putting in our personal data on these digital platforms. What does that mean from a data privacy and cybersecurity perspective? Just being able to kind of really understand the nuances of that area and being able to speak about it passionately is sometimes enough. Like your curiosity is what will kind of get you further than you actually think. So yeah, I would say those two things: be really creative in terms of the skills that you already have within your gift. And if you have any other professional experience, if you take me, for example, I had a really strong consulting background. I had client kind of deliverables that I had previously worked on and delivered. I was able to build really great analysis, business analysis, and kind of influencing and presentation skills, all of the things which has stood me in really great stead when like working with leadership and having to present to the CEO on my program and giving status updates. And then just like my wider reading and even just being a consumer of tech. There was a person, he was an early adopter of DevOps, and he said that actually every business is a tech business. And if you think about a bank is an IT company just with a banking license. You'll be surprised how much experience you have with tech just by trying to kind of strip away the complexities, strip away kind of all of the buzz that, you know, is naturally around technology just because of how important it is, and really kind of whittle it down to kind of its simplest forms. I think that that's always really helpful because it demystifies a lot of things.
Awesome, thank you. That was really insightful. Okay, so we've got a question for Elle, and that was essentially, what languages were the training organizations you mentioned specializing in? So you mentioned a few training companies on your slides. So I think that was like Free Code Camp and a few others. What sort of things do they specialize in? I reckon that's, yeah, go on.
So Free Code Camp, a variety. I think mostly JavaScript, React. I'm not sure if there's Python or other parts or other languages on there. I didn't get that far. Only went up to the JavaScript part. For Udacity, I think JavaScript, there's definitely Python on there, and Code Wars has pretty much everything. I can't remember the other one I mentioned. Udemy, everything on there as well. But I'm not sure if that's in referring to maybe the languages that I came across during the apprenticeship and internship. If that's the case, it was mainly Ruby and Java and a bit of Kotlin.
Cool, thank you. What key languages would you suggest learning if you're starting to learn to code outside of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript?
I would say I started with, after doing those three, getting familiar with those three, I moved on to Ruby. And I would say that's a great introduction to getting familiar with object-oriented languages, because the other languages that you may come across, such as Python and Java and Kotlin, follow a similar pattern. They all have like their little bits that are different, but generally they are pretty much kind of the same in terms of like classes. And yeah, so Ruby it's nice to read.
Is Ruby object orientated? Oh, cool. So yeah, it's quite
it is
in that way. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably the same sort of question. Is there a particular language that's preferred in the industry? And how do you connect a big interest in tech to actually getting a job without any background in it? So I guess the particular language, you've sort of covered a bit of that. So it's probably the sort of stuff that you get taught on the apprenticeship. But yeah, how do you connect a big interest in tech to actually getting a job without any background in it?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I was just going to say that you have to think really about what you have, and knowing that people skills and communication are all key parts of getting anything delivered. It's not just about having technical skills and ability. You know, it's about these things like any job hunt is about your drive and motivation to do the things that are going to get you the job. So in that respect, it would be research, it would be connecting to people in your network, it would be speaking to people about, you know, things that you don't know about, things you want to, learn more about. And it would be, Googling, as, someone else said, to find information, because there's so much information out there. It's really about you taking the action and not being overwhelmed by thinking, just because I don't have X, it's not about X. It's about actually being creative, being someone who is learning, being someone who is going to go for it and make it happen. And by building and learning what you don't have, and in fact what you do have, that's how you'll be able to get to where you want to go.
I'm speaking on mute. Always. What's been the most rewarding part of your tech career / journey? The most rewarding part. Nyasha, do you want to?
Happy to answer any question.
Fantastic.
So I would say the most rewarding part has been thinking about the impact of the work, and and that can be measured in different ways. It might be maybe your work reaches thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, or just knowing that it's made a difference for even just a couple of people. But I think just the whole bigger picture of being able to do something that makes a difference and creates some sort of maybe positive change in the world for me. And I think that's a running trend that I would see in most of my jobs. Even in the recruitment one, we had a specific thing because some people, they wouldn't be able to use it because they maybe didn't have a webcam, etc. And so if someone was on benefits or job seekers, we would actually post them a webcam, and then that's like just that small thing of that corporate social responsibility of really helping people and taking that extra step. So I just like that thinking about the ordinary woman or man.
Cool, thank you. What is the proper etiquette when it comes to reaching out for mentors? On LinkedIn, I find that people are either very helpful or dismissive. I take no offense. I would just like tips on a better approach. I think a few of you have mentioned mentors, so I don't know who would like to answer that.
Okay, so I'm just going to parcel what's asked before and what's currently been asked. So for me, again, like Nesha, I really enjoyed working on transformation projects that helped a lot of people. And the thing that I'm most proud of working on is register to vote. That's getting people on the electoral register online. So again, with my human zero participation, that's for me where it's at. But in terms of what's the question? The second one?
Sorry, it was what's the proper etiquette when it comes to reaching out for mentors?
Yeah, so I think with that, it's to really like building a relationship with anyone is the key. And it's to show that you're actually interested in that person and looking at what it is in particular that you want to learn from them. and asking them, in a polite way, do they have the capacity, are they interested, and do they do that kind of thing? Just taking it from there, really.
Okay. Does anybody else, so Elle, I know you do some mentoring. How have you found being reached out to, I guess, if that question makes sense?
Well, I met my mentee at an event for mentors and mentees to connect, which was with Coding Black Females. But in terms of finding a mentor and reaching out to people you may not necessarily know, I'd say build up a rapport with them, but not with the idea that, oh, I want them to be my mentor, but to kind of get an idea about what they're about and build a relationship with them. And it may be that they may not officially be your mentor, like, oh, I'm your mentee, you're my mentor, but they're someone that you can go to for questions, and they may help you in a way that you never would have imagined, even without not officially being your mentor.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Catherine, you're about to say something as well. I saw your mic.
I think it's already been said, to be honest. Yeah, just to echo, I think it's really important to have a clear understanding of what you think you'll benefit from having that mentor. What is it about their experience or even their brand or the network that they have that you feel that you can learn from, you can leverage? And I think, Elle, in what you just said in terms of kind of building rapport, I think that that's also key, because you're able to kind of see whether this is a person that you're even able to work with. I think that's something that people forget, that mentoring, as informal as it can be in some spaces, you're working together, and it's a working partnership and relationship that you're going to have some kind of valuable output, and almost like you should have some kind of success criteria aligned to that mentoring relationship to make sure that you're getting something positive out of it. We're all busy, irrespective of seniority or what else we do in our lives. So we want to make sure that on both sides, for the mentor and the mentee, it is valuable. So that's all I would add.
Thank you. I'll add as well that we're going to be launching a mentor program soon. So we're in the process, I think because of last week as well. So the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of interest from people that do want to support our community. So we're going to be building up a bunch of mentors and then do some pairing. So look out for it. We're going to be pairing people with mentors. So we want to do what we can as well. We have another question.
Just to quickly add on to that, I think I love mentoring, but definitely it's always better, as you know, Catherine's saying, about having a clear ask. And I think the best thing to do is make sure that you've done everything that you can to move yourself forward. Don't ask things that you could Google, and just making sure that you're as respectful as possible of the person's time, and you're thinking about the exchange and what you're giving back, because often mentors learn a lot from.
Thank you. Somebody just said that they suffer from really bad imposter syndrome, like really bad. And somebody else has also mentioned getting a lot of rejections as well. How do you deal with the rejections and the imposter syndrome, especially when you're trying to change career?
Go ahead, Catherine.
So yeah, I think first and foremost, I think, Elle, you said it on your slide in terms of being kind to yourself. The greatest leaders, from the Michelle Obamas to God knows who else, but I got a soft spot for Michelle. So Michelle Obama has spoken extensively about kind of imposter syndrome, and that's someone who has a stellar academic record. I mean, we know how fantastic she is. So the fact that she gets imposter syndrome, it just shows how human it is and how human she is. So I think it's something that you shouldn't beat yourself up on. Ways that I have personally combated my own imposter syndrome is trying to equip myself with the tools so that I feel like I know what I'm talking about. I've done the homework, I've done the research, I've studied a course if I need to. I've connected with people that I need to. I've been mentored if I need to. So I think it's being like almost having an action plan against some of the feelings that you feel from an imposter syndrome perspective. And then in terms of kind of rejection, I mean, rejection is a rite of passage. Sometimes it saves you from something that you may have thought you wanted, but actually in hindsight, you realize that it wasn't quite right for you. And then when you land on your feet, you kind of understand why you didn't get it before. So I think for me, my faith really comes into play when it comes to kind of rejection. So I think that's quite a unique approach to kind of handling rejection. But the first thing in terms of imposter syndrome, I think, again, building kind of confidence in yourself, really understanding the root cause of that imposter syndrome and doing the deep work to kind of overcome it, whether it's something really personal or whether it is something kind of professional where you feel like you don't have the technical expertise to apply for that technical program manager role, or whatever it is. I think there's got ways to kind of coach or almost coach yourself out of that spot. But then I think bottom line is we're all human, and sometimes we will feel not good enough or not worthy of an opportunity, and sometimes we have to kind of put ourselves out there, like what's already been discussed. A guy who has 50%, not even 60% of the skills is going to apply for the role. And we're going to sit there and think, oh, I don't have one of those skills, but I have 99% of the skills. And we'll sit on ourselves. Like, we need to stop and like literally emerge out of like the shadows of ourselves and take up space in the rooms that we deserve to be at and the tables that we deserve to be at. I think it's just it's growing pains.
That was definitely really powerful. I think sometimes it's also just about almost ignore. I always say to myself, ignore it, like ignore that imposter syndrome and do it anyway. So yeah, it's that same sort of thing, isn't it?
Feel the thing and do it anyway.
Yeah. There's loads of careers in tech. How do you decide which career you want to go into when you have no experience in tech? And yeah, how do you decide what you want to do? Did you do a lot of research first? How did you decide? I'm going to just say it again.
Okay, well, I'm going to start, and please feel free to chime in, anyone else. So I think with that, it's about looking at the skills that you have and then looking and Googling the various careers there are in tech, and actually just taking action about, okay, let's say you feel really organized. Maybe project management might be a right route for you. And as Catherine said, there's so many like paths even within project management and program management that you could do. Obviously, same with coding. There are so many different languages that you could learn. But it's really about being active and thinking about what is it that's driving you? Is it the product side of things? Is it the look and feel of it? Is it, how each intimate part like works? And just asking questions and asking people in different tech fields, oh, well, you're data scientist, I didn't know anything about that. What do you do? Does that interest me? Do I have those kind of stuff? Am I interested in maths and that kind of stuff? It's just really just asking those questions and not being afraid to reach out to, people in this network and on your LinkedIn or wherever to talk about what you want to do, and not being afraid that you change your mind because actually you realize that those things that you thought were right for you don't quite match up when you actually are in the doing of that, building those skills. Change your mind, move it on, and explore another path.
Cool, thanks. Sorry, I'm trying to look at 3 pages where there's loads of questions, so bear with me. Okay, I think we've got time for just one more question, so I'm going to ask one more, and then I think we have to wrap up because we finish at 7:30. Elle, what topics did you find most challenging when learning to code, and how did you deal with it?
That's a really good question. Every topic was difficult at some time when learning to code. Everything was new. But the main things that I found most difficult were there are certain standards for some in development, and I think they're called solid principles. And I found it really difficult to grasp them and to apply them to the work that I was doing. But with practice, it's now a second nature. And even though it's not easy to apply them all the time, I find myself thinking, oh, that I could apply that here, and this should be used with this. But yeah, at some time, everything during the journey felt difficult. But the same way that I've had something that I found difficult and overcame in coding, I've kept that in my mind as I've gone along. And whenever I feel like I can't do it, I just look back and say, look, you did it before, you can do it again. It may take a bit more time, but okay, you've got all these resources around you, people, you know how to search for things online to find the answer, and someone else has probably encountered what you have before. So yeah, that's how I try and overcome.
Thank you. So I have one final question for everybody. I know I said that was the last one, but I would like to know if there's one thing that you've all learnt, what would it be that would help you to inspire somebody else to change their career? Like, what's that one tip that you've all got? Catherine?
Research, and believe in yourself.
Fantastic, thank you. And you're still muted.
Oh, sorry. Oh, she's not asking me? Yes, she is. Okay. So for me, it is don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't suffer in silence. That is my number one tip, because I can tell you that has really caused me anxiety, pain, depression, and suffering. Ask for help, really. And secondly, believe in yourself. And it's not about perfection, it's about imperfect action.
Thanks. Nyasha?
For me, I would say set goals, and it's really consistency, and again to echo what others are saying, just even 1% progress and just taking those incremental steps to get to where you want to get to. And I think also being kind to yourself, because it's never a straight line of, oh yeah, the journey. There can be lots of wiggles and interruptions where you just have to keep going and know why you're doing it.
Thank you. And Elle?
I would say give yourself a chance to explore something you're curious in. As I mentioned, I've always been curious with coding, and I'm not going to say how many years later because I'll show my age, but yeah, I decided that I'm going to try it out and give it a go, and if it doesn't work for me, then fine. I've tried it out, but I couldn't have imagined that where I would be right now. So if I didn't try, I wouldn't be where I am. So I'll say, yeah, just give it a go, and also be kind to yourself.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. This has been really, really amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking part. You were all fantastically inspiring, and it was great to hear everything you had to say. And thank you for everybody who was able to watch today. We really appreciate you being here. You know, we've had a really tough time, but I hope that this has put some positivity into your lives, and we can all be excited about something going forward. Coding Black Females is here for all of you. So if you want to join the community, I will post the details of how you can follow us and where you can find us. But otherwise, thank you very much, everybody. It's been great to have you all here today, and stay in touch and stay well and stay safe. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, and it will be available on YouTube and as a podcast. You need to watch it at a later date. So I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.